Welcome to the Miniatures Paintbrush. Today we're going to do part 2 to the 3-part series of the Mortis Engine. Let's have a look. Alrighty, so welcome back to part 2 of 3-part series of the Mortis Engine. Today what we're going to do, we're going to paint up the spirits that are holding up the cart with the necromancer, which we completed last episode. So I was looking at various pictures of these spirits that are holding up the cart, and for the most part people, I guess, would take the shortcut, and it looks fine, it looks great. And what I mean by that is that they would paint everything in the bottom, all these pieces that you see in front of you, the same type of theme or color, like a ghostly kind of white, which has like these aqua blue kind of tones in the recesses with like a bonish white on the surfaces for all the areas, including the skeletons, including the wraiths, including all the people and skulls that are in there. I didn't want to go to that approach. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be something that stood out from all the other hex wraiths that are out there. And I wanted to enter this in a competition, so I kind of wanted it to pop, and that's what I was going for. I did want to have that ethereal, ghostly look, but at the same time, I wanted to be differentiated from anyone else who might be entering the competition with another Mortis Engine, and have the same kind of theme. Speaking of which, color selection, again, was using the color wheel. If you do not have a color wheel, then I highly recommend you picking one up. And the reason why I recommend picking one up is because you could always reference it whenever you're looking at a color and you say, man, I really want this to pop. In other words, I want it to have a contrasting color that really makes that whatever it is that you're painting stand out and really like draw your attention to it. And you know, as an artist, there are certain focal points or places within what you're painting that you really want to detail and exemplify and really like have it shine at you and show like, okay, this I want to showcase this item. And when you want that focus to be drawn, or your eyes to be drawn to that focal point, you would need a color that really makes it stand out, that really encapsulates it, like sort of like frames it off from the rest of the miniature or the rest of the painting. That to be said that you really, you know, showcase what it is that you want to focus on. And in doing so, using complementary colors helps tremendously. And what that is using the opposite end of the color wheel, and that is your complementary color. That is the color that's going to make it pop the most. Okay, so let me talk about what we're doing here on screen now. What I did here is I started off with a flat green, and that's from Vallejo Model Color. Model Color line, or a range of paints from Vallejo, were originally designed for the military guys, for the military models, and I do want to build a couple of planes, so I do have some of that range. And they have more of muted earth tones, things that you would find on vehicles, and that real life kind of color spectrum, while the game color line is more tuned to fantasy models and, you know, the glowing of the green flames and everything else. So this was from Vallejo Model Color, and it's called Flat Green, and that's what I used for the basis or foundation of the green flames that you have there. And I say green flames, but they're like more plasma. And if you watch or listen to a podcast called Acquisitions Inc., you'll know all about green flames. So we start off the green flames with the foundation of that flat green, and then we move on to a Scorpina green, which is a very, very like a lemon yellow kind of green. Now you can use any yellowish green you wanted if you wanted to represent green flames, or you can use, you can even go to white, but that's pretty extreme. You have to watch out with white. First of all, white, if you don't constantly mix it, becomes pasty and chalky, and you want to avoid that. But that being said, rarely do I use white for just about anything unless I really have to, because you can't highlight white. It's impossible. Because white is the brightest color. You can get off whites or brown whites or yellowish whites or warm whites or cold whites mixed with a gray or blue, and you can get that, and they're close to white but not quite. And then if you need to highlight it, then you can always go to that pure white or snow white. So I rarely highlight in white unless I have to. I think non-metallic metals, even then, I don't know. If I would go to a straight white, going from a darker gray into a medium gray, into mixing into blending into a white. But still, I would use a blue white, because steel or anything like that is more like a bluish, or they have some kind of tonal color to it. The base, the base element. Like I would use like a brownish or reddish with gold. Same thing, has that tonal variation. So yeah, there's a lot of flat green going on here. This was, I have to say, a complex piece, and not because I built it, only because I know due to the fact of all the pieces involved. And a lot of people had asked me, my goodness, you have a ton of sub-assemblies. And to create these sub-assemblies, what I did was, I like to build terrain, so I use MDF foam, and that's insulation foam you can get from your big box store. It could be Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever kind of construction store you'd like to go to, and you get insulation foam. And it's not that foam that comes into the rolls that look like cotton or fiberglass foam. It's extruded polystyrene. I think that's what it's called. And I like to use it. I like to cut and manipulate with it. But when I'm cutting and manipulating with that stuff, I have extra pieces. So, I don't want to waste the pieces. So I use them as bases for my sub-assemblies here. And I use the round dowels. They're not dowels itself, because if you actually buy dowels, they kind of can get very expensive. But they're barbecue sticks that I mitered off the tips and then modified the size. And barbecue sticks are a lot cheaper than if you went to a hobby store or arts and crafts store and bought actual dowels. Dowels can be very expensive, so I try to economize where I can. That being said, I don't want to sacrifice any quality. So they serve their purpose, those dowels. They also serve their purpose when I'm creating and crafting terrain, which I really enjoy doing as well. And for this purpose, what I did was I synced them in to these extruded polystyrene. I did cut off the tips, although you can leave the tips on and then just stab them into the polystyrene. I didn't like this idea for one reason. I have nephews that come over, and anything pointy I don't want around that somebody can hurt themselves. So, I try to use as much precaution as possible. But what I did do is take the hot glue gun and kind of put it on the dowel and sunk it in, so this way it wasn't going anywhere. That makes this polystyrene unusable after this, for the most part. I guess you can still use it if you want to. I kind of chucked them at that point. Okay, so next up, with zero masking. Why in the world am I doing zero masking? My thought process is here. Okay, these are spirits. So when you're looking at a spirit, you kind of have those blurry lines in between. You know, you're like looking the way I imagine looking at a spirit. You know, I can't speak from reference, but in watching movies and stuff like that, the edges aren't well defined. They aren't sharp and crisp edges. Now, if you're building a robot, sharp and crisp edges. A clean one anyway. I mean, this is war torn. Maybe you get some. No, it's still sharp and clean edges that you can weather, but still sharp and clean edges. These are spirits. I don't think that they should have sharp and clean edges. I should feel that the black will fade into the green, and the things will fade into each other. So that's the whole idea of not using any masking. When I use masking, I usually use Tamiya's masking tape, and they also have one that's bendy now, which is pretty cool. I dreaded doing masking on a curve, because then you have to put the tape on there and then take the X-Acto blade and cut. But I get really nervous about gouging whatever it is that I'm painting, and I don't want that. So this makes it super easy to put lines and bends in, so it's pretty cool. So I started off with the black, and the black is going to go onto the cloaks of the wraiths that I have there. I have 2 wraiths in there. I like saying the word wraiths. Wraiths. Yeah. All right. My first degree in speech pathology, audiology, and speech. You get to love how to pronounce words and their phonetic transcriptions. So I really do pay attention to that. Sometimes I try to over-articulate and not allow my Brooklyn accent to come through. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, and my dad was Italian, so he did have an accent. And my mother's Puerto Rican, so she has an accent. I got to tell you, Roberto, you tienes que clean your room. I'm like, yeah, okay, I will. I'm always over-articulating and sounding, or trying to sound as articulate as possible, as to not pick up any of those accents. Not that there's anything wrong with accents. I don't have a problem with accents at all. But I do find in business meetings and stuff like that I would get taken more seriously if I articulated precisely. So that tend to stick. That being said, in my personal life, I speak really low. Some people say I mumble. So, yikes. I guess I let my guard down and then I just speak really low. I don't know. That's neither here nor there. Speaking about here nor there, next I'm going to hit all the white areas with bone white. I like the bone white. There's like a yellowish or warmish kind of white. I mean, it is pale. It's pale, but I can't tell you. There's like a yellow in there, so I do like that. So it makes it a little warmer. And being that these things are on flames, and that the candles and the phylactery, I think I got it that time. Let me know if I got it in the comments down below. I think that matches the color of the bones. Plus, I use the bones, the same bone white in Hex Wraiths that I had done earlier to match this army. So I wanted to keep that theme. One thing about creating an army is that once you've chosen a color scheme, write it down and use it for the entire army. You want to have that cohesiveness. It's an army, so it should look more likely the same, or part of a troop, or part of an organization. So that's exactly what you want. You see how the ethereal glow with that white there? Now, when next up, I go into hand painting, because I do like use Airbrush for a lot of the base colors, and then the details with the brush. So what I'm doing here is using the Vallejo's metallics. Those metallics that I have there, I find that their grain count is so much higher. That means there's less there's less large flakes. They're small, grainy flakes, which makes the metallic metals reflect back. I have to say I'm still a little intimidated by non-metallic metal, but, and there's a big but, I bought a ton of oil paints. I bought a ton of oil paints, and I got them from AC Moore. I got it discounted, 55% off, Winsor Newton. And what that allows you to do, I mean, first of all, the characteristic of oil paint, period, is that it takes a long time to dry. Why is that important? Don't you want to paint and just keep painting and not worry about dry times? Well, the longer you have for the paint to dry, the longer you have to manipulate the transition from one color to another. In other words, if you are glazing or creating a transition, I'd say not glazing, but if you're creating a transition from one color to the next, like blending, right? You can wet blend for a longer period of time if you have oil paint than if you have acrylic paints. If you have acrylic paints, they have a tendency of drying really quickly. Even if you add the drying retarder, which I do in my wet palette, they still have less workable time, a significantly less workable time than oil paints. Oil paints have a characteristic where they take 24 to 48 hours to dry, and if you add a thinner to it, then what you're going to do is you're going to reactivate that oil paint, and in reactivating the oil paint, you can actually continue to manipulate it. You look at something and that you draw a paint, and then you come back later and look at it again, and you're like, oh man, I don't like this. Well, with the oil paint, you can come back and you can change that. That being said, you're going to want to use oil paints to learn how to use blending and practice your blending, but do it on flat surfaces. If you do it on reset surfaces, you have a large chance of the paint getting piled up into the recess and you losing detail. Not only that, you'd have to scrape the paint out, even wet. You have to scoop it up somehow. And that can cause transitions you don't want, with the colors and everything else. So, I mean, it just becomes a hassle, especially if you have a lot of recesses. So, flat panels, you got to use the oil paints. And you can actually use that in your regular paint job. Okay, next up on screen, we're going to do that transition from the black cloak, just going back. And we did the purple, and now we're going to do the blue-violet, just on the tips there. Again, no masking. So I lower the PSI of my airbrush. I believe it was at 12. It was very, very low. And what this does is that it offers more control, and it offers a heck of a lot of tip dry. You got to see me cleaning out my airbrush frequently. But, I don't mind as much because I have the control. And if I have the control, then that's exactly what I wanted, and I didn't have to mask. And not masking saves time. That's one thing. And again, blurring the colors between one thing to another is kind of what I was going for. So I wanted that ethereal blur, but I also wanted to include details. So it's a little of both. That's what I wanted. So here we have I really like the way it came out with the green and the purples and the blacks, and there's just so much there to it, and the way it matched the army, and the way everything kind of flowed together. Now I did add a color to this, which I really didn't add the color to it, which was innards and some red as well. Some red tones into it. Now with the hex wraiths, I added the red with the connecting joints and the mandibles of the horses, and as well as some patches under the belly where they had that as well. And I introduced red into the book, the Necromancer's book, and I wanted to introduce some red portions to this as well. So that's the only other color that I sort of added, but it was sort of in the army to begin with, so I wanted to incorporate that too. So if you see some reds on shields and stuff like that, it's because I wanted to have that cohesiveness. That was there. It was intentional. I used the same colors for each one of my models, and they're going to go throughout the range. I don't know what I'm going to do with the Flesh Eater quartz though. And that's going to be interesting. I'm going to tie all that in together. I wonder. I don't know. That's a lot of thinking that I'm not going to do right now. Okay, so I'm starting to use Valero Game Effects. I bought that. I bought a range of game effects and the range of game effects, and you can buy them separately. I picked that up on Amazon, and I wanted to play with it. I do like a lot of the Vallejo products. I like that they're in a dropper bottle. That's pretty cool. And I like the characteristics and how they flow on my web palette. It's pretty cool. And I do use a lot of different paints, P3s and stuff like that, but that's just not this time. All right, so I'm using this thing called Verdigris, Verdigris, and it comes the root word verde, which is green, or verdi in Italian, and gris is gray. So verde gris is a blue gray. I don't know if there's any relation there, but it does make metals look like it's aged. Like they have that certain amount of rust going on there, but it's not rust. If you look at a building, it's a combination of. If you look at something metal that's been out there for a while, you have a combination of this like bluish kind of rust, and then depending on the metal, bluish rust or reddish rust, which is either a warm rust or a cold rust. I went for cold rust on this one because most of the models are dead, and yes, I wanted a cold vibe to it. That being said, once again, I do have those red little accent marks that I put in there, so I think I hit like very few areas with a little bit of that orange rust, just a tiny, tiny bit. You'd have to really look closely to see it. And I don't care if other people don't notice it. It's not for I don't paint for other people. I don't. I paint for myself. I paint because I want to get better. I paint because I really like it. And I paint because it's awesome downtime from a hectic day or a hectic, experiences, and you just want to chill. This is my best way to chill now. I like watching movies, and I watch the Netflix, and I hardly play video games anymore. I was an avid video game player for many, many years. And rarely do I play video games right now. I'd rather just paint. Maybe it's just me getting older, Not that video games are not cool or something like that. They are pretty cool, and there's a lot of new releases. But now that I haven't played as much, maybe a JRPG, but, it'll take me a year to finish. I think I'm playing Ni no Kuni, the first part right now, only because it's amazing. There you go. And I think I finished the Mass Effect before that. But yeah, just like everything, I have a lot of patience. So I never pay full price for a game like that. I only pay $20. So I wait for a game to become $20. I mean, it's new to me, so I don't care. Again, I wouldn't play video games for other people anyway. It's just play it for myself. Just like I paint. I don't paint for other people necessarily. I am showing you how I paint because if you want to do it, I'm showing you that it's not impossible. That if me, which I don't think I don't know. I don't think I'm great or anything like that. I think I'm getting better, and I'm showing you the process of how I'm getting better. But if I can do it, Mr. Clumsy Hands, and believe me, I am pretty clumsy. Oh yeah. In fact, look. I mean, I don't even have the painting on screen. That's something. So there you go. That's better. So I make a lot of mistakes. Hey, that's okay. And if I, who make mistakes, can do it like this, then you can do it like this too. You probably can do it a lot better than I can. So I'm just showing you how I did it. Again, if you want to use your own colors and you're building your Mortis Engine, it doesn't have to be green. It could be like a blue, and red is the complementary color of blue. So, you want to work with that. Or it could be burgundy, and it could be like a bluish. Oh, I don't even know. I don't have the color wheel in front of me. Go out there and get yourself a color wheel. No. That's not an order, but that is a highly recommended thing to do. Okay? Get yourself a color wheel. Make yourself a wet palette. Increase your game. Get yourself some decent brushes. Take care of your brushes. Never let paint get close to the ferrule. or where the metal meets the brush. Don't let paint get in there at all. Like if it gets even close, rinse out your brush. I don't care if you have to rinse out your brush 20 million times before you get, to the point where you can control the paint flow that it never goes up to that ferrule. Because the second it dries in there, it splits your brushes and ruins it. So that's my biggest fear. Like I'll pay a lot of money for a brush and then I ruin it. Again, because I am clumsy, and that's okay. That's part of who I am. I'm a dreamer. I'm clumsy. I'm definitely like a geek, a nerd. That's me. I like sports too. So there's that. Go New York Giants. Only because I grew up there. So I like sports, and I like miniatures, and I like video games, and I like to fish. I like fishing. There's another thing that requires patience. I like, well, obviously painting. I like a lot of things. I have so many hobbies. I like flying kites. It seems peaceful. I like things that promotes peace. Yeah. Oh, I think it's awesome. Okay, so what are we doing here? We're doing the bits. We're done with the cart, the spirits that hold up the cart. I think I built it off screen already. Oh, not yet. No, soon. And then we're adding all the additional bits. Again, I used extra extruded polystyrene, and I had these little sticks. I think it's called wood pile. And I bought them, I don't even remember where I bought them, possibly AC Moore, and you go to the wood section and they do have wood piles, and these are just little sticks. They're wonderful, I put a little bit of poster tack at the end of one, like a ball, and make it like a Q-tip or a cotton swab at one end, and then I put the piece that I want and I sink it into the cotton swab. Now, that being said, whatever piece is inside the cotton swab is not going to get painted. It's not going to get painted, so you'd have to hand paint just that little bit. And I find it worth it. Also, when painting bits like this and these subassemblies, any connecting pieces, like if an arm connects into a socket, you want to put a little bit of poster tack in there, because when you're gluing them together, it's always best to have a connection plastic on plastic. You don't want to connect paint on paint, because if the paint chips, the piece falls off. Simple as that, right? The paint will go with it. You're gluing the paint. You're not gluing the piece. So you want plastic to plastic, and in order to do that, and you're going to paint this stuff, put just a tiny little bit of poster tack around it. It doesn't even have to be 100% around it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but put some, so this way some plastic can connect with some plastic, and there won't be a gap little there, and you can put your glue onto there. And there are different glues that you can use. I mainly use super glue, that you're gluing one piece to the next piece. There's another glue I call hot glue. I use Tamiya's extra thin cement. You can use cement glue. And what cement glue does is that it creates a chemical reaction within the plastic and melts it. Right now you could be saying, whoa, you're melting plastic. Dude, you're going to ruin your model. You can. I mean, if you soak it in it, I guess. But I wouldn't soak my pieces in extra thin cement. However, it does have a little brush to it, and you just apply it onto the area and then hold it. I blow on it for a while. I haven't used the accelerator with it yet, and I don't think I will. But you will allow the chemical reaction to occur, and then it'll slowly start melting those two pieces together, hence fusing them together into one piece. Therefore, you have very little worry that the piece is going to break off, because it's one piece. So the only way it's going to break off is that if you snap it. And then, just like if you snap a full piece, it'll be exactly the same kind of reaction. So don't snap your models. Oh, snap. Okay, now I had to do that. So again, I'm using the metals from Vallejo lines, metallic air, which is amazing, I do have to say. I mean, the metallics look so much better than what I've been using. I used to use the P3 cold steel, and I have even Vallejo model color steels and stuff like that. They do not look as good as these air formulas. The air formulas, I guess they're just a new formula, and I went ahead and bought the range. So I have just about every color they produce that I could find and get my hands on, because they're just good. And when I find the product that's good, well, I get all of it, because in case I need to use it. There you go. So, and even though it says airbrush paints, you can paint with the brush, the regular brush, which you see me doing there. So, and airbrush means that it's thinned down to the point where it can go through the airbrush. Now, even though it is thinned down, I still thin it further whenever through an airbrush. I've had my airbrush clog before, and in fact, I've had my Iwata, which is a trigger one and has a side cup. And that's for like really big projects, I guess. I had that one clog, and for about 2 years I couldn't use it. So I'm just frustrated with it. Actually, I'm frustrated with myself for not. I used Tamiya's primer and liquid primer, and I didn't do my research on that. And they say mix it before you put it in, like thin it out outside of the airbrush, and thin it out before you put it in there. I've clogged up that airbrush 3 times with that surface primer. Like, I don't even want to use it anymore. I don't even think I will use it. I don't know. I don't think I should use it. I don't know. It is so frustrating. I'm like literally afraid to use it. Guys, if you have any experience with that, with the Tamiya's surface primer, and what I'm saying is that it comes liquid in a little bottle, like a square-like bottle. And again, I was told to thin it out and mix it before I put it into the airbrush. And so I may not have done that, and I gummed it up. And again, gummed up for 2 years. Now I can finally use it, but still, it's like, whoa, it scares me. So you can see there, I have that extruded polystyrene. I have those little sticks there. It makes it easier to control painting. And it was fun. It was fun to put together. I have all these bits that I wanted to do separately. I didn't know where to put them. And then the idea dawned on me. I just looked over and I was like, oh, I have all these extra bits for painting, for creating terrain. So why not? Why not use it? I'm all about recycling, and I'm all about reusing, repurpose, redefining all the pieces that I use regularly, so I can have multi-purposes. Because who wants to spend the extra money on stuff? I don't. I'm sure you don't. I think there's better things you could do with your money, like take your family out for ice cream. And if you're lactose intolerant, then take your family out for ice cream, but just make sure you take your lactose pills or whatever it is you need to take. I like ice cream. I do. I didn't always like ice cream so much. I mean, I always liked the big dinner, but maybe not, just ice cream. But my wife loves ice cream. My father-in-law loves ice cream. I mean, loves ice cream. Go dairy farmers, So I developed a love for it. So it's funny, like when you're with a person, a little bit of them rubs off on you. And that's true. So that's why you're often judged by the company you keep, because the people you surround yourself with are the people you start becoming like. Working as a teacher, I've seen it a lot of times, where I worked in a 12 through, in New York, I worked in a 12 through, K through 8 school, I'm sorry. And that's kindergarten through 8th grade. And some of the teachers in kindergarten started acting like they're kids. She took my pencil from my desk. Like, no, why'd you take my pencil from my desk? I'm like, whoa, okay. Look what's manifesting. And then I just thought about it. I'm like, well, she surrounded herself with people who behave like that all the time. So, and they think that's justifiable, the kids anyway. And after a while, you condition yourself to be that way. So be careful who you hang out with, man. You start becoming like them. That's why when you get married, it's because you love the person, and you guys become like each other, and before you know it, you become one. It's true. It's true in relationships. You actually become one with your partner, because you spend so much time together, you actually literally start acting like each other and get the same sense of humor and all this other cool stuff. I'll tell you right now, I'd be lost without my wife. Like, I'm so in love with my wife. I know, that's probably like, oh my gosh, you're great. I mean, when you got the right person, man, just life comes into perspective. It's amazing, you know? And you surround yourself with really good people. So just watch out for that. Always hang with really positive, uplifting people and stay away from the toxic people, because they're just going to be toxic and they're going to drag themselves down. Believe me, misery likes company, so they're going to try to drag you down with them. So if they're going to do bad things, then let them do them. And ladies, self-respect. Like, really, you're worthy of being loved and treated respectfully. Don't ever think any less of yourself than what you are, and you are amazing. So respect yourself, and then others will respect you. And don't care so much what other people think about you, because at the end of the day, those other people are not going to be paying your bills, and they're not going to be raising your children, and they're not going to be there for you when you need them the most. Some people say, hey, you really find out what your friends you have when you move, and you have somebody come in and just like move packages for you, and they don't charge you anything, you know? There's one test, right? Another is like, if you really want to get rid of somebody in your life, lend them a whole bunch of money. It's like 20, 30, 40 bucks, I guess. Lend them that. And then every time you see them, they kind of try to avoid you. So you eject them successfully. 40 bucks gets rid of a bad influence in your life forever, and you can do it politely, you know. I mean, I'm a New Yorker, so, you know, just, I can be rude about it sometimes. Like, you, out. I guess. But I'd rather be rude and transparent than polite and fake any day. So that's just the way I am. I prefer honesty above all else. That's who I am. Anyway, you see, when in painting and stuff, like, you get to reflect on these things, you know? You really do. You get to reflect on. That's why I love painting so much, because, you know, so many times in life, you kind of just, like, going through the motions and going through things and not even reflecting upon what you've done. Like, when I paint, and I'm thinking all the time. I'm thinking of color schemes, I'm thinking of the game, I'm thinking of this, and then I'm thinking of my life, and I'm thinking about who's in it, and what's going on. And I'm thinking about parenting and what to say, how do I influence, because kids are always watching you. Always watching you. When you least expect it, they're watching, they're analyzing, they're grouping together. Some of them are collecting data on how to manipulate you and knowing how to press your buttons to get a reaction that they want. So when they want something, they know how to make you react and get what they want. Ooh, manipulation at its finest, right? It's a psychological game. That's all right. I study psychology. It's good. It's all good in the hood. But really, realizing what's going on around you. If you don't take time to smell the roses, proverbially, if you don't take times to reflect upon your life and what's going on around you, you're going to miss it. There's so much going around. Body language, everything. And it all matters. Everything matters. I don't believe in the chaos theory that everything was just randomly generated for just random reasons because of randomness. You know, I believe I have a purpose. And it's good to live with a purpose, let me tell you. One of my purposes in life is to paint up some minis and have some fun with you guys, you know? This is so awesome. It's an awesome experience, you know? I love teaching, I love doing, and I love sharing my passion with you guys. And I love expanding the community, and I really do like interacting with people, and I love people, and I love events and getting together. A lot of people, I've been told a lot of people who play these kind of games are more introverted. You know, they just stick to their basements and that's it. I'm not. I'm an extrovert. I am at heart. I am somebody who likes to go out there and have some fun and, you know, teach others and joke around and, you know, make really bad pun jokes and make people laugh and make myself laugh and just have a good time. And that's me. I'm a socialite, I guess, but not for the sake of being a socialite. I'm a socialite because I just enjoy company and I love people. So, and this is a social hobby. You know, maybe not the painting as much, and that's why I kind of want to do videos so I can share with you. So it's my socialization, I guess, and through social media, and then getting out there to your game store and playing is also a social event as well. And it's cool, man. It was totally intimidating the first time I went out my local game shop and just like literally sat there for about 2 hours and no one spoke to me. Now, if anything is nerve-wracking, that is nerve-wracking. To the point where the store owner came up here, one of the store owners or the workers of the store came up and said, hey, my brother plays, war games and stuff like that, and he can't make it tonight, but, tomorrow he's going to come by, and, if you can make it tomorrow, come tomorrow, and this and that, and they apologized, and I was like, well, that was kind of cool that they apologized and everything. They didn't need to or anything like that. So, but it's kind of cool that they were self-conscious about that, And and the next day I came and I played, and it was pretty cool, and get out there and stuff like that. And people looked at my miniatures and like, whoa, that's cool, and I like the way the Troll Bloods were painted and all this other stuff. It's a shame that I didn't get any of that on camera. That was pre YouTube for me, YouTube was a concept, which I thought was really cool and I might want to get into. But I kind of thought that kind of have something to base it on, I gotta be good enough to go on YouTube, yeah. So, I did a whole bunch of Troll Bloods, and every Troll Blood that I did, I got a little better at and tried a new technique and watched YouTube and saw tutorials and watched people like Vince Venturella and Les Burley from Awesome Paint Job and, even Painting Buddha and, Cujo Painting, which is awesome. And they're all awesome, painters. I mean, really influential painters. I'm sure there's more out there. Snouser Face Minis, he's a teacher also, although he hasn't posted in a while, and last I heard he felt that his stuff wasn't good enough to be posted, that he stopped growing as a painter, which scares me because I don't ever want to do that, but his stuff is awesome, man, and he breaks down for you too. So, I have a lot of influences, and I took them and I studied what they did and I kind of implemented, and I'm still doing that. I joined the Painters Motivating Painters, and that's a Google Plus forum. Mr. Vince Venturella runs that, and it's just that, Painters Motivating Painters. So if I paint something, I put it up there, and they give you constructive criticisms and comments that'll help improve what you're doing, which is, it really is an asset. Because if you want to improve as a painter, which is exactly what I'm trying to do, then that'll definitely help you. And there's a really cool community up there, and like everybody is so cool and positive, and they'll just tell you the way it is too, and I like that too. I like the honesty. I like honesty. I mean, I like I said, even if you have poor things to say to me, that's fine as long as you're honest, if you have great things to say and you're honest, that's even better. I don't want to be chewed out, but I've been chewed out, again, a New Yorker, for 38 years. I grew up there. I've been worse than chewed out. I've had guns pointed to my head several times, and I'm still here, so yeah, a lot of things. Been stabbed in the back. Like, I have quite a few horror stories for sure. And maybe if I'm at one of these conventions, you can ask me about it, and I could just let you know all about those weird teaching events that I've had and weird life experiences that I've had, and I have plenty. I could probably write a book. In fact, my students say if you wrote a book, I'd read it, and I don't even like reading. I'm like, well, then maybe I'll write a book just so you can enjoy reading, because I love reading. Okay, showtime. Time to put the bits onto the pieces that are going to hold the cart together, and that means we're getting close to putting this cart together. Now, I didn't put it together on screen. I didn't actually build it on screen. You can look at the directions for that. Real easy, but I kind of showed you how to paint it, and you see that ethereal glow that you have there. And I did the same kind of pattern with all the weapons that have a clear ethereal streaks, being that you have a Scorpina green closer to the weapon, and then you have that flat green fading into that flat green on the outside. It's a very, very simple concept. You can do that with any other colors that you want, going from a lighter to a darker. You usually want to go lighter at the source of the fire, and then darker as you go out, just like in flame. and flame. If it's super hot, it's like white in the middle, and it goes out into an orange, into a yellow orange, and then a yellow orange, and then finally you have the darker oranges to the reds, right? So we're just about close to the end here. We're going to do it. So it's pretty cool, and all I do is put a little verdigrease on there, and that's pretty much it. So it's pretty cool. Right on to the end, getting all the pieces together, and I put it on for the next one. So for the most part, this is just about done. I use Zip Kicker, which is really cool because you don't have to hold dry glue for a long period of time, and that spear right there has a tendency of breaking off. It broke off twice on me while putting it on together, so be very, very careful with that. Look at that, one little drop, and it is completely dry. Okay, so we're going to end it up here for the part 2, and looking really good. Well, that was part 2 to the 3-part series of the Mortis Engine. Next up, we'll have the last and finishing up with the base. Catch you next time on the Miniatures Paintbrush.